Go. Hello, everybody. Welcome to another video from the Joining the Dots Startups Network. It is my delight today to welcome Tim Davies, the founder of Projekt Rising. You're right there, Tim. Looking forward to you talking with you today about, well, potentially humans and machines and how we're all going to get along in the brave sort of future we're heading into.
Let's hope it's not Terminator.
Well, I mean, with these videos, I like to sort of see what people have got to say for themselves. So it's going to be over to you. But how are you today, first of all?
I'm doing well, thanks, Carl.
Excellent. All right. I thought I'd better just check before we start. Okay, Tim. So tell me a little bit about your background and sort of Projekt Rising that you're running at the moment.
Sure. So I started my career playing with computers and accidentally falling into project management. And after 14, 15 years of corporate, left, played with classic cars, and then decided I ought to get a real job and started working with Elance before it became Upwork on the early use in enterprises of freelancers. So helping big corporates to deliver projects with originally just individual freelancers. And I worked for Upwork in a variety of roles, realized that there was a huge opportunity to pull together teams of freelancers to operate on a project level rather than a task level. And the Upwork at the time had no interest in that. So left Upwork to form Projekt Rising with my business partner who'd done a series of roles with me at different companies, who also left Upwork for that. And we've spent the last 4 years building a project delivery service with remote freelancers.
Excellent. And so, like I said earlier, it's interesting how these trends go, because I remember I've used Upwork myself, and obviously even before that Fiverr, and we've really gone through some very interesting shifts. I suppose if we even look at like the last 10 years, I mean, just the whole use of so workers out in India and various countries where they've got lower need for big salaries, as we have in the UK and so on. So there's been a lot going on, but you're now, I mean, one thing that you've mentioned there is you're bringing together that trend around freelancers and remote workers with how do you get jobs done and project management, which obviously there's been sort of technology bubbling along in the project management space. But then the other thing that we sort of mentioned earlier on is you've also got AI and machine learning as a part of your proposition. Just tell us a bit about how that fits together.
Sure. So I guess it's the combination of human cloud and machine cloud. We've got freelancers who are all over the planet, can work from anywhere. Doesn't matter whether they're in their bedrooms, in an office, on a beach. They can work doing specific tasks from wherever they're based. But in order to make that a repeatable, scalable operation when delivering projects, you have to take some of the elements of project management and effectively turn them into smart building blocks, that when those smart building blocks are combined, you can replicate some elements of the job of a project manager without any of the limitations of time zones, sleep, weekends, holidays, grumpy pets. The project manager can just operate and continue to make sure things are happening and almost be constantly aware and able to act to make sure the project continues seamlessly. Some of those elements are ML models, some of them are just logic, but when you combine a series of elements together, you can replicate some of that capability and go some way to automating elements of project management. We wouldn't say we have an automated project manager because that's a step far too far, but the ability to monitor what's going on a project and allocate work between freelancers without a PM needing to be on it all of the time is possible. And when you combine that with a human layer to interact with the customer, you can have a great customer experience. You can have a delivery team of freelancers all over the world, and you can keep frankly, the overheads of running the business relatively low by leaning heavily into the machine cloud.
I love it. Yeah, and I get this idea. It's also making me think about how I've been interacting with a lot of people now, a big trend around, groups of individuals who almost come together as companies, but they're very flexible around projects or clients, where some of them come together and they break apart, or some stay together, and it's all very malleable these days in terms of how people can work. But if you've actually got something underpinning all of that in terms of coordinating, that obviously sounds super valuable. The other thing I was going to ask you is, she popped out of my head. I was going to say about, never forget what you're going to say when you're being recorded, eh?
It's like you should have written a list.
It was quite a good question as well. It was to do with, oh yeah, that was it. I think for the people listening, can you give us an example of, just to make this all the more real, because I get how it is capitalizing on trends, and definitely things that people are familiar with in terms of how do you automate things, how do you get things done more effectively with all these kind of remote workforces and freelancers. Just give me a story maybe of a particular, you don't have to name names, but how you saved people time and orchestrated this.
Sure. So I think we could focus on a very specific small project, but if we talk sort of more generically about the application in the pharmaceutical industry, our customers, specifically the pharma customers in the UK, have to follow very specific regulations in terms of how they bring medicines to market and the governance processes associated with those. And that means that changing marketing material related to those takes a long time and goes through lots of iterations. And so we've put in place a process which enables the change to lots of marketing assets quickly, effectively in parallel, based on a single medicine change from a customer. So instead of the process taking a huge drawn out amount of time with lots of independent reviews by the stakeholders within the customer and medical legal review, we've shortened that time to market and effectively broken it down into a series of micro projects, which can have different freelance team members for the different elements pulled together into a coherent deliverable. That means that the project's delivered quicker than it would have been with the traditional media agencies and at a lower cost. Although actually all they seem to care about is quicker.
Mm.
And it's reducing their internal time as well by reducing the amount of medical legal reviews and churn within their marketing departments. So everybody wins.
Yeah, that sounds very, very powerful. And so that's a pharma example, and I think obviously, like you've highlighted, it draws out their regulatory needs as well as part of their process. So it definitely, I suppose there's more and more of those kinds of processes that different businesses are facing. Can you just maybe, as we wrap up, like, what other, I know you do some great work in the pharma sector, you've got some really big pharma clients, and also you've done some stuff in marketing sector. How do you think your particular technology and offering relates in terms of what are your, if anybody's out there and they might be in another sector, what are the key criteria that you look for, that where you think you might be able to help someone, basically?
We're currently focusing on projects that have high levels of internal governance, but are generally relatively short duration. So the fit that we're looking at the moment is predominantly marketing projects, just because they're very repeatable and they can be quite short duration. When we're looking for partners and new customers, we generally look for, can we benefit them in terms of reducing their time to market? And do they have a project type that has suitable levels of repeatability in terms of the structure and requirements, that it makes sense to apply some level of automation to the delivery of that project type? So at the moment, we say there isn't necessarily a wrong customer. We've just chosen to focus initially within pharma and specifically on marketing assets for that industry.
Awesome. Yeah, and you've done very well at sort of finding that cluster and then just building it out. And just one last thing on that then. So it could be marketing teams in various different sectors, right? So as long as they've got potentially a governance issue or some of these kinds of criteria. So what might be another example of another industry where they've got, I'm just thinking aloud here, where are the...
Food manufacturing is an obvious
Yeah.
area where there is high levels of governance. But really, it can be internal governance and practices. It's not necessarily something that you have to follow these legal regulations. It's just anything that makes it more difficult for a traditional agency to manage is where we can apply the insights that we have and the automation to make those processes almost seamless.
I guess also there might be a role to play in environmental, social and governance areas as well, the ESG, and businesses all kind of thinking about their sustainability roadmaps and all that stuff.
Absolutely.
Data. Amazing. Tim, that was really, really interesting, and hopefully been useful to some people out there. So what we'll do is we'll put some links to website and contact details in the description below, and people can reach out to us on LinkedIn as well and go from there. But thank you very much for your time today, and I look forward to speaking to you soon, and maybe someone else will want to get in touch as a result of this. So have a great day.
Superb. Thank you very much for your time, Carl.
Pleasure, Tim. Cheers.